Okay. So from there, I can see you managed to declare some variables, project, cluster 1 student, cluster 2 student, print project. Okay. Cluster 1, builds a boolean. Okay. Not equal to operations. Ah, we haven't gotten to assignments to comparisons, but I can see that we are going far ahead from where I haven't gotten yet. Okay, so I will be kindly asking you to reshare here and then. So let me just open my document. Um, um, let me just do a recap from yesterday's session. So can you kindly stop sharing your screen so that I can share mine? Okay, can you confirm if you are now seeing my screen?
Yes, we are seeing your screen.
Okay, from yesterday's session, I think I was here. Is there anyone who is still behind, who hasn't gotten to understand what is a variable is? What are the rules for naming variables? Then what else? How you can write your variables, data types. Anyone who hasn't understood what data types are, how you define data types. So today I'm going to move on to, let me just do a recap on string manipulation. This one is quite, where's my Tony? Yes. Let me do a recap on string manipulation. Okay, it happens to open a new file. So string manipulation, like I said, involves changing and modifying and analyzing strings in various ways. So these are examples of methods that are used in string manipulation. So we have string concatenation, like I said yesterday, it's joining of two or more strings. This is string concatenation. Unlike in mathematics, this concatenation is regarded as addition, but in string manipulation, it is called string concatenation. So if I'm joining two words A and B like this, letter 1 is equals to A like this, letter 2 is equals to B like this. Then if I print letter 1, letter 2, like this. So this one, we do not say we are adding strings. We say we are concatenating. This addition sign is now defined as concatenating strings. So that is string concatenation. So what this does is it just joins this and this. So I can have letter 3 here, which is equal to C. Then I can also join letter 3 here. So this will print A, B, C, as you can see. So I have joined A, B, and C. I haven't added A, B, and C. So this is string concatenation. Then I said slicing. Slicing, it allows you to get substrings of a string. So this one, we use it to get substring of a string. So when you're getting substring, your whole string is going to be considered as an array. I think I mentioned that yesterday. So it is considered to be an array. Okay, can you hold on a second? Okay, so like I was saying, when you're doing a slicing, right? So your string or your phrase is going to be considered an array. Then with slicing, it allows you to get a substring or some subsections of your array or of your phrase. So the syntax for substring, I think I wrote it yesterday. So it's your array name, which is your variable. Then you put your square brackets. Then you put your, so it's, this is the syntax for what? Syntax for slicing. So the syntax for slicing is array name or variable name. So then you put your square bracket like this. Then you put your lower bound. Then you put a full colon. Then you put your upper bound. Then you put your closing bracket like this. So what it does, it is going to go on this array. It will treat it as an array. If it is a string, it is going to be treated as an array. So like if I have my name here, uh, let me just remove this name. If I have John here, John here is a string, right? Like I said yesterday, strings are enclosed in quotes. So this one is a string, right? Which is assigned to my variable here. So, but if I say John, if I say name here, then I put 0, then I put 1 here. So what this does, it is going to treat John here as an array. So when it is going to be converted or treated as an array, it is the letters or the items in an array are going to be given indexes. So the indexes depend on the length of my value. So this is going to assign this one to index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3. I think I mentioned that yesterday. Like indexes in computers or numbering in computers is started at 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, like this, right? So by saying index 0 like this, I mean start from J. If I say to 1, I mean up to this point. So this is lower bound and upper bound. So this is the syntax for slicing. So we use it to get substrings of a string. Then there are also some inbuilt string methods in Python. They're like these ones. These are some of them, not all of them. These are some of them. So this one, it converts your string into uppercase or into capital letters. This one converts. So these are functions. These are inbuilt functions, and they should be as they are like this. If you put your upper like with the capital letter U, it won't, like if I want to print like this, then I put my name, which is my variable. So this will print my name, right? Which is this one. So my name here, I want to convert it to uppercase. So this one is an inbuilt function. So I just said dot upper. Okay. So the upper is syntax is that it should have opening and closing brackets, but this is a function. We'll get to functions in the later courses. So if I run this one, it will say John. But if I say upper like this, you see, I get an error. Why? Because there's no function like this in Python, an inbuilt function like this in Python. So you have to write these all predefined functions and keywords are like the reserved keywords, like I mentioned a list of them like this. These keywords, you have to write them as they are. All predefined keywords, you have to write them as they are if you want to use them. And all predefined functions, you have to write them as they are. So this is the syntax for upper, lower, and replace. Then the replace, it accepts two arguments. So if I print my name, but on my name I want to replace, what do I want to replace? I want to replace the letter O with what? With the letter U, like this. Okay. So, like I said, everything that you open, you need to close it. So as you can see, I've opened this bracket. Then along my commands or along my program, I can see that I've also opened another bracket here. I've opened the closing, an opening quote, I've closed it. Then this one is fine. Then this is a second argument. Like I said, the replace accept two arguments. This is its syntax. So it's the phrase or the letters that you want to replace here, then comma, then you put the phrase or the letter that you want to replace with. Then as you can see, I've closed the bracket, this one, but this one doesn't have a closing one. So I also need to close this one like this. So now if I run here, you can see that I have replaced the letter O, which is this one, by the letter U. So the letter U will be put here. Then it will write my name with my letter U replaced. I can replace like OHN with just an O. This is not an O, like this, as you can see. So like I said, the replace function, you can use it to replace words, characters, or phrases within a word or within a phrase. So I can say, I am going uh, I'm going to write my Python okay, let me just leave it like this. So I can say within this variable, can you replace the word Python with Java? So the output will be, I'm going to write my first, but when it reaches this phrase, it will replace this one with this one. Then it will be, I'm going to write my first Java program, as you can see like this. So this is the syntax of the replace function. We use it to replace strings, characters, or phrases within a phrase or within a word. Okay. Then I can say also replace all the A's in my phrase with an O. So it will iterate through my phrase. Then it will replace this one with an O, another A with another A, this one with an O. So if I run this, you can see this one has been replaced, and also this one, not this one, which was an A. So it is going to replace all the A's with an O. So this is the replace function. So moving on to then the repetition, I think this one is self-explanatory. Like I said, if you want to repeat your phrase or your word in the times, you just need to say times, you put your number. But the second argument should be a numeric. So I can say name is equals to John. Then I can say, can you print John 3 times? 9 times. Then the second argument, by second argument, I mean this one. It should be a numeric value. Then I can run this. As you can see, it has printed John John. Okay, so this is the repetition is quite simple. Then moving on, this one is self-explanatory, the output. This is the one that you were doing from day one. We use this function to display an output to the user. So like print hello world, it prints hello world to the screen. Then this one, the input function, we use it to get some data from the user. So for example, let's just write a program. By the way, comments don't get executed in a program. Just take note of that. All comments, um, they don't get executed in the runtime of a program. All comments, they don't get executed. All comments, they do not get executed in the runtime of a program. So your program can have comments, but if a program contains some unidentified characters or unidentified commands, you get into what is called a runtime exception. Like I can have an example. I can say name is equals to John, like this. Then I can say last name. Then I can say print name, like this. So if I am to dry run, by dry running means I am executing my code using my mind, means I am executing my code line by line, what is supposed to be doing. Before I even run it, I should be able to tell what the output of this program is going to be. So from this, I am seeing that the first line is going to assign John to a variable name, right? Like I said yesterday, this is a value, then this is a variable. Then the value of a variable always change. It depends with the user, what the user has entered. It's like this name variable can have any type of value, not any type of value, any value. But since it is a string, it can have any value, but which is a string. So this one is going to execute fine. Then when the execution goes to this line, like I said yesterday, execution is done. It is done line by line, from line number 1 up to the end of the file, unless I command my program to skip some lines. So it is going to execute my program line by line. So this one is going to be executed fine. But when it gets here, what is this supposed to do? Nothing. It is going to try to execute this command, but the command is invalid because it's a variable, but it doesn't have any assignment. So it is going to, and you are going to encounter what is called a runtime exception. We'll talk about that. So we have what is called syntax error. These are types of errors. We'll do them. I think in, let me see when. I think on day number 5, 6. Error handling. Where is error handling? Okay, in this lesson, this is where we are going to understand what are common errors. But there is what is called syntax error, which I've wrote here. Then there is what is called where is my pen? There is what is called runtime error. Runtime error. Then there is what is called compilation. Compilation error. Syntax error. These are types of errors that we are going to discuss on error handling, but I just want to mention them now because we will be encountering them during our assignments, during our code practices, but you should be able to tell that, well, is it an error or not, which I'm encountering. Then there's what is called, what's the last one? Logic error. There's logic error. There are some other kind of errors which I haven't mentioned here, which are not quite important right now, but these are the most common ones that most programmers encounter during their programming journey. you encounter what the most common one usually is this one and this one. But this one, you can tell it before you even run your code. But this one, you cannot tell it before you compile your code. So from my program here, I can see that my code is fine from with my eyes, because the moment you leave something, your IDE will tells you that you have missed something. As you can see here, there's this black highlighting, which tells me that you have an error here. So even my code, even if my code is long, like I can have name 5 here, which is close to 8 like this. So no matter how long my code is, if I see this black line, it means there's an error somewhere. You can see that even if my file goes up to million lines, I can see that there's a black line here, which is starting from this line number 3. So this one is called a syntax error. Like I said, syntax means rule. This just means that rules that governs you during the programming. Then syntaxes, they differ from one programming language to another, but they share all common syntaxes. Like everything that you open, you need to close it. So these are called syntax errors. So I can close this bracket, then this black highlighting will go away like this. But now I can see that my code is now looks fine. But when I try to compile it, I will encounter a runtime exception. So again, as you can see, my code now looks fine, but when I run it, you can see I've encountered an exception here. So syntax error, the developer can see it before even compiling. The developer can identify it before even running the code. This one, the syntax error, I can see it before I even run the code. So, but with runtime error or runtime exception, an exception means an error. And runtime exception, the developer cannot see it before running the code. Okay, so we are going to do error handling in the later courses, but I just wanted you to know that. Then moving on to, okay, so I was on input. So the input, we use it to take some data from the user, right? So let's just do one practical example. For example, if you are logging in onto your Gmail account or onto your Facebook account or your Instagram, you are asked your username and password if it is your first time logging in. But if it is your second, you may be asked only the password because the username will be already in the cache memory. But you want to write a program that prompts a user to enter his username and his password, then you determine if the username and the password is correct. So by that, you can say username. Okay, username is equals to, so this is string, so we can say input, then we say we'll put a message. So I have opened the bracket for input. Remember, I need to close it at some point at the end of the line, so I can close it right now. Then I will type whatever I want inside. So inside, I need a message. So I put a opening quote and a closing quote. Then inside those quotes, I can say enter your username, name like this. This will be fine. Then password, input, and your password. Okay, like this. This is a message. So I need to close the quotes. Then I also need to close the bracket that I've opened here. I need to close it here. Then the quote and the quote like this. Then we want to print username. So to print, so far we've been printing only variables. Like I can print username like this. Like this. So like I said, your variable needs to be exactly the same as you have defined it. I can print password like this. So if I run, so like I said, the program, it executes line by line. So when it gets to line number 1, it is seen that I'm being asked to request for username from the user. So it won't get to line number 2 unless line number 1 is completed. So line number 1 is going to be completed when I click enter. So if I come here and click enter, it is executed this command, and it has taken the value that I've inputted and assigned it to username, but I haven't typed anything, so my username will be empty. Then it went to line number 2. Then it saw that I'm being asked to request for password from the user. So unless the program gets the password from the user, it won't get anywhere, no matter how much long you wait. So I can put enter here. So as you can see, password is not defined. I haven't put anything. This was supposed to print. Password is not defined. Where are we getting that? Okay. So like I said, you need to write your variables exactly as you have declared them. Then you can see from my password here, I have put password with 1S, which is this one. But on my variable, my password has 2 S's. So that one will make me go into a runtime exception. So when it gets to line number 2, this one executed very fine. It went to line number 3, there's nothing. It went to line number 4, there's nothing, or because I haven't put any username, so that's why it tried to print the username here. So this blank space here, it was trying to print the username, but the username was nothing because I only clicked enter here. Then when it got to line number 5, it saw that I'm being asked to print password. But what is password? Password should be a variable declared somewhere along the file, but there's no variable with this type of naming. So that's why I encounter this error. So like I said, you need to put it exactly as you have declared it. So now if I run and I put nothing here and I put nothing here, so you can see that now there are two lines, two blank lines, this one and this one. So these are for username and password. So it was supposed to print username and password, but I didn't put anything here. And also, you need to know that all the variables that you can access, they need to be before when you are trying to access it. They need to be before when you are trying to access it. So here I'm accessing my username and password because they are there in the memory. They have been stored before I tried to access them. So if I take this print line and I put it on top of this one, I will encounter an error. You can see that I'm trying to access password before I even know what password is. I don't even, the program won't even know that there's a variable called password because it hasn't got to that section of creating memory space for password. Like I said, variables, they are created into memory. Then whatever value that you assign it, it is going to be stored in that value for that variable. So all the variables, you need to access them after you have declared them and you have assigned them. So that's another rule that you need to know in programming. So now maybe I can put values. I can say my username is user123. My password is admin. Then now it prints username and password like this. So this is the input function. Like I said, we use it to get data from the user. So someone can put different values. Someone username can be Eric. Eric what? Password again. This one is dumb enough to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 something. Then this is the username's password and username. Then earlier in this session, I think I mentioned about the data types. So okay, these are data types. So the input function, I think I mentioned it. I think it's yesterday or day before yesterday. The input function, it takes whatever you put as the value and it treats it as string. So unless you tell your program otherwise, whatever you put is going to be treated as string. So if you want to put maybe I only want to take the user's age. Age is equals to input what? I want the user to enter his or her age, enter your age like this. I close the quotes, then I close the bracket. So if I run this, I'm going to enter age. Let me just put full colon and space so that you can see. Okay. So if I'm putting 12 like this, from my eyes, I can see that this 12 is an integer, right? Like I said, all numbers without a decimal point or a fractional point, a decimal value or a fractional point are considered to be integers. So from my eyes, I can see that this is an integer. But this value is going to be stored in the variable age as a string. So I can click enter. I haven't done anything with my age, but I can print age here like this. I enter my 12 again. I can see this 12. But this 12, it looks like it's an integer here, but in the actual memory location, it is being stored as string. So this input function, it takes whatever you put as a string. So if I want my data type to be otherwise, I need to tell my program to convert it to whatever data type I want. So if I want to see my data type, I can say print type. So type these and inbuilt functions. All inbuilt functions like the ones I mentioned, like these ones, upper, lower, replace. You don't need to worry about those. You just need to know that this function, it is written this way and it accepts this argument. By arguments, with me, it means whatever it may require to put inside the brackets. We'll talk about arguments when you get to this section where we do functions. But for now, just need to know that arguments is something that you need to put inside the brackets. For example, the print function, it accepts at least one argument. So I have one argument here. I can put a comma and put another argument. Those are called arguments. So the type function, it accepts one argument. So the argument, I can put my variable here. Then I need to close this bracket. So I close it here. I also need to close this bracket. I close it here. So if I run this, I enter my curve here, then I click enter. So as you can see, I'm printing the data type of my variable, which is this one. But this one is whatever the user is entered. But the user has entered 12, which is supposed to be an integer. But here it's telling me that your data type is of type string. So like I said, you need to convert it. So to convert, if you are taking that data from the user using the input function, you just need to put the data type that you want to convert it to before the input. So I need to convert it to int like this. Then you open your bracket, then you close your bracket like this. So we are saying take whatever that has been entered by the user inside here, right? Convert it to an integer. So this is the purpose of this int function. So now if I run this, I enter my curve again. As you can see that my data type is now int, which I can use to perform some arithmetic operations on. Like I said, with integers, you can perform arithmetic operations. But with the curve, which was string, I cannot perform arithmetic operations. For example, maybe we want to take the user's date of birth, and we want to know how old is that student or is that person in 5 years. We just need to add 5 years. But if your date of birth has been entered as string, you won't be able to add that with 5 years. So you need to know the data type that you want to convert to. So this is how you get the data type of a variable. You just need to say type, then you put your variable inside here. Then this is not it. Let's move on to, so this was the input function. We use it to get data from the user. So moving on with our course, I think we are about to wrap up. So let's just do these two practical examples, and I think you will be able to do the assignments. So this one, what we wanted to do here, we wanted to create a user. right? And tell that user how old is that user. But we want to know the data by asking the user to enter his or her data. So this was the first practical example. We want to ask the user to enter name, input. We want the user to enter his or her name. We say enter your name. We close the quotes. We input this one. Then you close the bracket, right? So this will ask the user to enter his or her name, but we haven't done anything with that name, so I can put a name, but it won't do anything. Like it's against. So this one means that my program has finished executing. So this is where my program starts executing. This one is where my program ends executing. So I can see that my program did nothing. It only created a memory space for a variable called name. Then when I enter Gerald, so this alone will just create a memory space for a variable called name, but it won't do nothing unless I put the value. So when I put Gerald here and click enter, so while I'm typing Gerald like this, while I'm typing Gerald like this, nothing will be stored in the variable name. But the moment I hit enter like this, now if I want to access my value name, it will have this value. But the moment I'm typing, nothing will be assigned to the variable name. Then we want to ask the user's age. So age is equals to age is an integer input, right? A message to display for the user. We want the user to enter your age like this, right? Then we need to close the bracket for input. We need to close the bracket for int, which was for conversion. So we are converting the numeric value that the user has entered into integer. But with this integer here, you also need to make sure that the user is going to enter a numerical value. Otherwise, that data will encounter a runtime exception if the user doesn't enter a data type which can be converted into an integer. So any value which can be converted to an integer should be a numeric value, which is 0 up to 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, or up to 9. So that value can be converted to an integer. But the numeric, the alphabetical letters, you encounter a runtime exception when someone enters like A, B, C, D, and so forth. The code will try to convert that value into an integer. So you encounter a runtime exception. So now if I say Gerald, we need Gerald's age. Gerald is 20 years old. Then everything works fine. Okay, let's see what you say, Gerald. As you can see, this time I encountered an error. Why? Because the value that the user has put here, the program tried to convert this to an integer. As we said earlier, integers are whole numbers. So this one is a whole number, fine, but these ones are characters. So this one will be converted now. It's not alphanumeric. It's no longer numeric since it contains numeric values and alphabetical values. So it's not alphanumeric, and alphanumeric values cannot be converted to an integer. So I encountered a runtime exception. Why? Because it tried to convert this one, this phrase, to integer. So you need to know the type of data you want to handle before you. So it will be a job as a programmer to know the type of data that you want the user to enter. If you need to put error handling so that your code will not encounter runtime exception, you need to put error handling. Then we want to display a greeting message. So this is the section. So there are two ways that I can do this. I can do this using string concatenation, or I can use it using the f function, which we use to replace variables within a phrase. So the f function, its syntax is you say print, then before you put your print phrase, you put an f. So an f means that the can be variables within my phrase that I want you to take from somewhere. So you put your quotes like this, you close it, you close it like this. So this is the syntax of the f function within a print statement. So with this f function, I can now put a message here. I can say hello. Then I want to greet this user, right? So to access that variable, you use what are called curly brackets like this. So inside the curly brackets, you put your variable name as it is, like what we used to print even without an f function. So I need to put my variable as it is. So as you can see, as I typed name, it has highlighted name. So if I run this, it will only print, this is now Henry. Henry is 10 years old. As you can see, it has said hello, which is this one. But when the print function sees an F, it will try to see if there are any variables that has been assigned in that phrase, which it will try to. So when I put a curly bracket is like this, and an F function, this is now not going to be treated as string. This is going to be treated as a variable. So before, if I remove this F function, and if I run this one, you see that it will not print Henry like this. Henry, this is not spelling for Henry, this is Henry, 10 years old. As you can see, it will not treat this one as a variable. It will treat a string. Like I said earlier, anything inside the curly brackets, inside the double quotes, is treated as string. So this is treated as string. But in Python, there's a special letter called F. So when I have an F, it is now called a printf function. Some call it a printf function. It's no longer a print statement. So it's called a printf function. So the F, it tells the Python program that there can be variables within my phrase. So when I put an F here, it is now going to treat this not as string, but as a variable. So now if I run, that's when it printed Henry like this. So this is now being treated as a variable. But this variable, we have it here, and it has a value because that's the first thing that we did. We assigned value to the variable name here. Then we assigned 19, the variable age. Then we say now, can you print yellow? But before you print name, this is a variable. This one tells that there can be variables inside our phrase. Then when it reaches this, it can now tell that this is a variable. They need to go and try to access the name. So you need to have name. So whatever you put inside the curly brackets is when you have an F function, they need to be variables that exist and that have value. So here, if I maybe say last name, I don't have last name on my declarations. So I'll encounter a runtime exception here, as you can see, because it is now treating this one not as string but as a variable. But this variable doesn't exist. As you can see that I only have name and age. So it will try to look for something called last name in the memory space for a program. Then it won't find anything with the variable called name. So you encounter a runtime exception. So with an F function, anything that you put within your curly brackets, you can have as many arguments as you want. So I can say hello name, you are. Since these are not inside curly brackets, they are going to be treated as string. So you are, but age is a variable. We have been given age by the user, so we need to print the age that we've been given. So we use curly brackets again to say age. We are not putting our own age, but putting the age that has been put by the user when we were on the input function right above. So I can say you are. Then this one is not within curly brackets, so it won't get executed as a variable. So I can say okay, Mary. How old is Mary? Mary is 15 years old. So as you can see now, it replaces name with the actual value that the user has entered and age with the actual value that the user has entered. So this is called a printf function in Python. Then, so this is what this function I was doing. So on input. I think that's it. Then moving on to arithmetic operations. So the basic arithmetic operations that we use, I think we did that when we were on. We did that when we were on what? We did that when we were here, but let's just repeat them. So the basic arithmetic operations, we have the addition, which we use the plus sign. We have subtraction, which we use the minus sign. We have multiplication, which we use the asterisk, not the times. In mathematics, they use this, but in programming, we use this. Then we have division. Okay, we have division, which we use /. Then we have the modulus, which we use the percentage sign. The modulus, if you remember, is this can also be called a remainder, but the proper term for it, is modulus, but you just need to know that it means a remainder. So I can put it in brackets, not all. It means a remainder. Okay. Then any other arithmetic we have the power. Power, which we use double asterisk. Then we have what? Okay, that's all. So we have the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, and the power or exponential. So let's do practical examples. So this is power, or some call it exponential. This can be used interchangeably. Okay, so let's start with the division. So like I said, comments don't get executed, but if I run this, I will encounter a syntax exception, because this is these are not valid Python commands, but I can put these ones into comments. Okay, how do you put comments here? Okay, I'm not sure how you put comments, but I can do it manually like this. Okay, so these are comments. Comments, they don't get executed, like I said earlier. So now my program looks fine. I run it and it hasn't done anything, but these are comments, they don't get executed. Right. So let's start with the addition. The addition, you can use it to add one or more integer values in arithmetic. So I can have num1, which is equals to int. So we want to take that the value from the user. We want to add two numbers that we are going to ask the user to enter the two numbers. So we want to take two values from the integer. We want to take two values from the user. So the values, since they are numerical values, they can be int or float. Those are the two data types of integer values that we are going to be working with for now. So we can have it as integers, but we are taking them from the user. So we are going to ask the user to enter them. Then we want to display a message. So we say enter num1, right? Which means enter the first number. We close the bracket for the message. We close the bracket for the input. Then we close the bracket for the int, like this. Then we want the user to enter the second value, which you are going to name num2. And also remember our variable naming conventions. I'm saying num2, not to num. So like I said yesterday, variables cannot start with integers like this. This will cause exceptions or errors. So you put If you want to put some numeric values in your variable, you need to put it at the end. So I can say num2. Okay, let me just copy this. Okay, so I need to enter num2. Okay, so I can say sum is a variable. Okay, sum is a, so all the reserved keywords, you can see them by this color. So this is a reserved keyword. I cannot use this as variables. Then as I typed sum is a reserved keyword in Python. So I cannot put my variable name as sum here. So I can say maybe total. Okay, so it's black, it's fine. When you see another color which is other than black, which means either it's a reserved keyword, it's a predefined function or something. So I can say total is equals to num1, which is my variable here that I've asked the user to enter the first number. Then I can add, I want to add num1 and num2. Okay, so this will take whatever the value is entered here and it assigns it here. Then this will take whatever the user has entered here and it assign it here. Then this will perform an arithmetic operation of this numerical value and this numerical value. And it will take the sum of this and it will assign it to total. So if I'm try running how this program executes, first it will create memory space for num1 and it will name that a memory space num1, but it won't have any value. It will prompt the user to enter. So all the executions in programs, they start with the um, inner function. The innermost function is the one that is going to be executed first. So it will execute the input here. So it will prompt the user to enter num1. So while the cursor is clicking, it won't even know that my input is going to be converted to an integer. But the moment the user enters a certain value and clicks enter, then when it goes to the conversion, then after the conversion, if it converts successfully, then that's when it assigns whatever value that have been converted here to num1. So those are the execution steps. It creates num1, it names it num1. It creates a memory space location, it names num1. It prompts the user to enter the value. It will wait for the enter to be clicked. After I click enter, it will convert it to an integer with this function. After converting it to an integer, if it converts successfully, it will assign it to the variable. So now the variable has a value. Then it creates memory space num2. Then it comes, you see that there's an int, but there's an input. So there's nothing inside the input except for this to display this message. So it displays this message and wait for the input function to be executed. So this input function is executed when I click enter. So when I click enter, then it takes the value that I've entered, it converts it to integer. If it converts successfully, then it assigns it to num2. So that's the purpose of this equals. We said 1 equals is assignment, 2 equals is a comparison. We'll get to 2 equals. So far, we're doing only assignment. So it will now put the value to num2. Then it goes to the next line. The next line did nothing. I'm not instructing it to do anything. It goes here. It creates a memory space called total. Then it goes here. But this one now, it won't ask the user to enter again because we already have this in our memory space and it has a value. But if this doesn't have a value, it will encounter into a runtime exception. So, but this has a value. So what it does, it goes into our memory. Then it fetches for the value of this variable. So when it creates those memory space that I was saying, it creates memory space, the memory space ID is the one that it uses. So this variable, it has a memory space ID. So it uses that value, that ID to fetch the value of this variable. Then it sees that there's a plus sign. It then uses the ID of this variable to fetch for its value. After getting its value, then it computes the summation of these two values. When it computes successfully, which means it has now added this value successfully. In other instances, it may fail to add successfully because I may have my num2 as not an integer. So if I have my num2 is not an integer, maybe I didn't put this. So this will execute successfully because I haven't computed anything here. I just asked the user to enter num2 and assign it to num2. But when the user has entered here, like I said, if you don't put a data conversion, this will be treated as string. So my num2 will have a value, yes, but that value won't be an integer. So when it gets here, num1 is an integer, so this will work fine. But when it sees a plus sign, and this one is an integer, and this one is a plus sign, already now the program knows that I'm being asked to perform some arithmetic operation. But when it gets to num2 and fetches the value for num2, it will get string because this one was not converted, right? So now I'll be asking the user to enter 1 plus, maybe the user has entered 1 plus 2, but the 2 is not an integer. This is 2 in quotes. So there's a difference between 2 like this and 2 like this. So this is string, this is integer. So if I enter 2 here on this section, on it as my num2, it will be treated like this because I didn't put an int. So the int will convert it to an integer. That's when it removes these quotes. So it will try to add 1 and 2, which is integer and string. So this will fail. At the end, this will not have value. So when this fails, it will encounter a runtime exception. So it won't even get to the assignment part. So even if I try to fetch value for total won't be with any value. It will be just a memory space that have been reserved. So I will encounter runtime exception. So this is, let me just try to run this and show you. If I say 1 here, then if I say 2 here, as you can see, I have encountered a runtime exception on line number 5, as you can see. So I said your error, where the error is occurred, you see it here. In the actual error, you see it here. So as you can see, I have an error in line number 5. Why? Because it is trying to add a integer and string. So the plus sign, it knows that this is an arithmetic operation. So it says untype, unsupported operand type because I'm trying to concatenate. I'm trying to add because I started with an integer. I'm trying to add an int and a string. But if this, I've put num1 after num2 plus num1 like this. So now I'm not trying to add, I'm trying to concatenate because this is a string, and we said a string and a string is concatenation, but an integer and an integer is addition. So when it sees that this is a string, then I'm trying to plus here. So it is going to assume whatever is going to come next is going to be a string, but this is a string. So it will try to concatenate here. So you can only concatenate a string and a string, but you can add an integer and an integer, but you cannot concatenate a string and an integer. So I also encountered a runtime exception here. Okay, just a second. Okay, sorry about that. So as I was saying, when you are doing arithmetic operations, where are our arithmetic operations? These ones. Okay, these ones. Plus, times, division, modulus, and what? And exponential. The value on the left hand side and the value on the right hand side, I'm talking about this one and this one, which are between the operand. So this is an operand, this is an operand, this is an operator. So the value that is on the left hand side and the right hand side of the operator, needs to be of the same data type. So on this phrase, our operator is plus. This is our operator. Then we have our operands, which is num1, num1 and num2. Okay, so these are operands. We can have as many operands as you can have. You can say minus num1. So now we have two operands, but we have two operators like this, because this one has been repeated. As you can see, if I click here, this one has been repeated. So it's like we have two variables, num1 and num2, and also we have two operators. So the operator is this one, the operands are this one, then the operator is this one, the operands are this one. So like I said, the operands that are being computed by the operator, they need to be of the same data type. So let's just proceed for the sake of time. So this time I won't want to encounter runtime exception, so I need to convert this to an integer. Okay, so now I can say num1 plus num2. Okay, now I should not encounter runtime exception. 1 plus 2. Okay, I didn't print anything, so in my memory there are three variables right now: num1, num2 in total. This one is 1, this one is 2, this one is 3. I only haven't printed the total, but it's there in the memory. If I want to access it, I can access it. Like I can have a print function. Print function. Then I want to print a certain value with a message, so I put an F. Okay, I can say just a second. I can say I want to display what the user has entered as num1. So num1 plus num2 is equal to, so these are being treated as string because they are not inside curly brackets, but this is a variable, this is a variable, this is a string. Then I want to say is equals to, this is a variable. Then I need to close my quotes like this. So now if I enter 1, 2, and 3, so you can see that it has taken whatever I've assigned to num1 and printed it here, which is here. Then it brings a plus. It prints num2, which is this one. Then it prints an equals. Then it prints a total, which is this one. But this one is a computation of this, where this one is this one, and this one is this one. So this is same from subtraction. So you can say num1 minus num2. So I can put a minus here. So I can say 10 and 5. It should get 5. Okay, 10 minus 5 is equal to 5. Then for division, so these ones, they don't have rows in terms of the values that you put, except for that it has to be in the same data type. So I can put any value I want, 1,000, million, billion, like I can say 200 and chug. I don't even know the answer for these values. But as long as they are integers, I'll get an answer. Okay. So this is a subtraction. This one is a smaller value than this one, so I get a minus. But for division, it has a rule that the dividend, for division we say the divisor and the dividend, right? The quotient. Can you kindly correct me on that? I'm not sure which one is the divisor and the dividend. Like if I say 2 over 5, like 2 over 2 divided by 5. Okay, I'm not sure which one is the divisor and which one is the dividend. I just need to know that the value that you are dividing with should not be 0. Divide the dividend quotient, I'm not sure which one. But just need to know that the value that you are dividing with should not be 0. Otherwise, in mathematics, some say it can't. Like if I say 5 divided by 0, some say it can't. In programming, you encounter an error. So for division, the dividing value, so if I'm dividing num1 divided by num2, this num2 should not be 0. So if I run this, so if it is a 0, I will get an error. So if I 10 divided by 5, I should get 2, which is this one. But if I put 0 as my num2, let's just see 10 and 0, you can see I'll get a 0 division error. So this one needs to be any value other than 0. So you just need to take note of that. So for the sake of good programming, that's when error handling comes in. So where is my okay? Error handling I think is there on the later courses. I think error handling is this one. So this is where we'll be doing error handling. Error handling means I don't want to encounter a runtime exception. So this is a runtime exception. As you can see, my code is ended. Even if I have something below this, maybe I want to print a message code completed. Okay, this section, the program won't even get to this section. It will fail here because of that exception that I've encountered on top. As you can see, I have only entered 10, I've only entered 2, and num2, which is 0. Then it encountered an error during the execution of this command, where I'm trying to divide the first number by the second number, which is 10 by 0. So when it encountered an error here, it now ignored the rest of the commands. So I may want a situation where I just need to handle that error so that my program will continue executing. So that's the purpose of error handling. So as you can see, it haven't even got to this section. It failed on line number 5, which is this one. So this one, the rest of the file will be ignored. So this is division. You just need to know you use the /. Same for multiplication. Multiplication, it doesn't have any constraints. You just need to put an asterisk. So this is a display. I can put a times, like if I'm displaying it to someone who is not a programmer, the message can be in a human readable format. 10 times 2, you can see that 10 times 2 is equal to 20, because this is a display message. This is not a command, but for it to multiply, this is a command. So the user doesn't see this. In the background, it multiplies two numbers, but for the user, I can display with an X so that someone who is not a programming expertise or who's not a bit technical can see that this person is multiplying 10 and 2 and getting 20. And we're done with this. Okay, so this is division. Okay, what's next? Division, multiplication, subtraction, modulus. Modulus, I think we did that. It just means the remainder. So the remainder is, if I say 10 modulus 2, I'm saying, can you divide 10 by 2 and give me the remainder that you get? So if I divide 10 by 2, I'll get 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5, right? Then the remainder is 0, so I'll get 0. So if I run my code, I need to put a modulus here. A modulus here. So I'm forgetting to change these variables. So I can say answer here, not total, because when I'm dividing, I'm not getting total. You only get total when you are adding. So I can say answer. So is your job as a programmer to put a proper name variable naming so that even someone who reads your code should understand what you are trying to do. So I wasn't changing my variable here. So now if I say you are doing what? You are doing modulus. If I say 10, can you divide 10 by 2 and give me the remainder? So my remainder is 0. If I divide 7 by 5, I'll get 1 remainder 2. So if I say 7, 5, so my remainder will be 2. So this is the remainder. So during the execution of this, it will divide this number in this number. It takes the remainder and assigns it to the value of this, to the variable answer. So my variable answer will have the value of 10 divided by 2. Then it takes the remainder, then it assigns it here. That is the modulus. Then exponential or power. If I want to say 2 to the power 3, where is my thorn? It's double asterisk like this. In mathematics, the power, I think they use which character? I'm not sure which character they use. Okay, this one. Okay, so this is the character that is used in mathematics, 4 to the power, or some they just put it as a superscript, like I said, 2 to the power 3 as a superscript. So I can say now 4 to the power 4, 4 to the power 2, 4 to the power 3, 4 times 4, 4 to the power 3 is what? Let me just open a calculator. 4 times 4 times 4, 64. So 4 to the power 3 should be 64. Okay, as you can see. So I think that's it on arithmetic operations. So now maybe let's just do an example. We want to ask a user to enter num1 and num2. Then we want the user to enter a character. Then we print the answer respectively to that character. So like our calculators work, we ask for the user to enter num1, we say 2. Then the user needs to tell the program the character that you want to use for the arithmetic operation. I can say I want to use times. So it has written times here. 2 times, then it wants the second value. I can say 5, then I can click equals, then I get 10. So this character in between here, we do not hard code it. When you are programming a calculator, you do not hard code the character. You need to ask the user for this character. So if I say 3, the computer or this calculator doesn't know I want to do multiplication or subtraction or addition. I just said 3. 3 what? Minus. Then it wants the second value, 1. Then I say equals. Then it computes 3 minus 1, then it gives me a value. So we want to write a program for that. We want the user to enter num1, and we want to ask the user to enter the character or the arithmetic sign. You name it whatever you want, but we want the user to enter an arithmetic symbol. Then we want to perform some mathematical operations depending on the type of arithmetic sign that we've been given. So we have num1, which is fine. Maybe we say symbol or character. Symbol is equals to, this is string. So we just need an input. We don't need to convert it to any data type. Enter what? Enter symbol. Okay. So this. We only need one bracket. Since we only opened one bracket, we need to close only one bracket here. Then we want now to compute the answer depending on the character that the user has entered. So the options that we're using for now, let's just use minus, plus. Okay, let's just start with minus and plus. So we do not know what the user is going to enter, right? So we want to put what are called condition statements. I think I'm now moving on to our next lesson, but this one, we are done with this. These are only questions that takes note of what we discussed. So, but these examples that I have here, they are doing arithmetic operations, but they are making use of these else, elif. These are called condition statements. I think these were supposed to be in our next lesson. Let me just kindly share the document, the notes. Let me see if these are condition statements. These are control structures. Okay, condition statements here. Okay, let me just share the notes so that you can be following while I'm doing. Because I'm doing this as lesson 2 notes, but it's covering what is in our next lesson. Okay, can you confirm if you have received the notes? So for the condition statements, we are going to start with an if. An if is just a question which possesses to be a question mark. An if is just a question mark, but an if it is followed by a boolean. The result of an if is a boolean. Always, no matter which programming language you are using, which framework you are using, the result of an if or the result of a, in fact, let's just say an condition statement, because it's not only an if, the result of a condition statement is always a boolean. By boolean we mean true or false. Only one of this value. It can be true and it can be false, but never both. Nothing is true or false. If I say, are you a male? If I'm not a male, you say no, which means it's false. Are you a male? If I'm a male, I say yes, which is true. But if I say, are you a male? And you say yes and no, maybe you'll be drunk, I think. So the result of a condition statement is always a boolean, which is true or false. Can you kindly confirm if you have received the notes on condition statements? Because as you are doing this calculator, we'll be doing if statements, which covers this lesson 3. We want to do this. Want to do this example, but we are making use of this condition statement. Can you kindly confirm if you have received the notes and opened them? Hello. Hello.
Yes, we have the notes. You can
Are you sleeping?
No.
I feel like I'm talking to myself alone. Okay, fine, it's fine. Or if you have opened the notes, let me just also open. Let me just open them here. Okay.
That's right.
Hello.
I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so you've been talking for the last around 30 minutes, and I was wondering if the learners have any questions or concerns before we proceed to the next thing.
Yeah, I'm just doing a wrap up on arithmetic operations. So when I finish these 2 examples, the simple calculator and the string manipulation. Then I'll open a room for questions. Then I'll also ask them to tackle these assignments today and tomorrow. I will need them by Monday. So while I'm doing these two practical examples, they should open their minds on what we mean by plus, minus, and I'll ask for, I'll have a room for questions.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah. Then
Okay, that's fair. That's fair enough. So before you proceed, I just want to ask a basic question on behalf of anyone who maybe is lagging behind. It's just a basic one. Could you go back to Tony, please? Why you operating on both the upper and the lower? I'm asking this because I understand that there are learners who will just go directly, for instance, on number one, let's talk about the second line. On number one, they will just go directly instead of writing the whole, is it a command or something, the integer in the brackets, they will just go directly and put number one equals to 4.
so
Number two equals to 3. So why do we have to operate the upper part and the lower part? I think it's just important to clarify, especially for those who
okay,
are taking it
let
slow.
me just answer you about putting the value here. So if I say number one is equals to 10 like this will work fine. But what will happen is that whenever I run this code, my number one will always have the same value. Okay. So just take it as like if you buy a calculator, then it won't allow you to add your own numbers. I want to add 5 and 10, but it won't allow me because it was hard coded. So I said, I think I'd mentioned that on the first day. This is called hard coding. So by putting the value inside the program, it means you won't allow the user to enter what he wants or what she wants. Okay. So by using the input, you are creating a room to enter the user what he or she really wants to do with the function that I've given to that user. So I want to create a function, or I want to create a calculator which allows the user to perform mathematical operations. But one's homework might be different to someone's homework. On my homework, I'm being asked to multiply numbers. Someone's homework is of maybe adding and subtracting and doing division. But even the values, they may be different from my values. So I want the user to enter the values that he wants or she wants to perform the operations with. So by hard coding like this, yes, it will work fine. But the only constraint that we have is that your program will always have the same value no matter what. Even after 20 years, after 100 years, it will always have the same value. It will never change because you have hard coded the value. So by not using the hard coding part, you use the input function. So the input function, it asks the user to enter data. I think I defined that when I defined the input. So the output, that one is fine because it's just for displaying. You display whatever you want to display, either calculated value or a static method like this. This phrase will never change. It will always say enter symbol. But the symbol that the user is going to enter is depending on this input. What the user is going to enter is going to be assigned as the symbol. But if I remove this and if I say plus here, we want to add, so I say plus or minus here. So the symbol will always be a minus, but someone may come wanting to perform a multiplication or a division. So we do not recommend using hard-coded values. We put the input to allow the user to enter the value of their choice or their preference. So that is the first part of why we do not put values like num1 is equals to 2, num3 is equals to 4. Of course, but maybe if you are answering an exam, the exam is asking you to create a calculator that add 5 and 10. That way you can say num1 is equals to 5, num2 is equals to 10. Then you hard code the symbol is equals to plus. Then you say num1 answer is equals to num1 plus num2. because you already have the values 5 and 10 that you are being asked to calculate. But if it is for a real world scenario or for a production environment, so programmers say, for a production environment, you do not know what the user is going to put, right? That's why even if you are signing up for Google, it asks you to enter the password. When you are logging into Facebook, it asks you to enter your password. They do not give you the application being encoded with your password. Somebody can download my application and use my account. So we do not put any hard-coded values like this. So this one, I think you are answered. Then on the casing,
Yes. So that is the clarification I really wanted you to make, so that all the learners are as par with the others. It is very important for them to understand that.
okay. So maybe if I say that maybe I'm writing an exam, then it says create a program that is 5 and 10 like this. Then it says it's 5 marks. I can just say num1 is equals to 5, num2 is equals to 20. Answer is equals to num1 plus, because it's saying that adds, so I say num1 plus num2. I should get my 5 marks from this. I can say print answer. Okay, I should get my 5 marks from this because I'm just creating the program to answer the question specifically. But if it says create a program that allows a user, okay, I can say create a program that adds 2 numbers. In that by a user. When you say this one is quite tricky, maybe this one is 10 marks. So if you had to answer this question already, I know that there are 2 numbers, right? But I do not know the numbers. So I don't know if this. I know that I'm being asked to create a program that adds 2 numbers, which are going to be entered by the user. Since I do not know the numbers, I need to write my code with the functionality that allows the user to enter the numbers that they want. So that room of entering numbers is where we use the input function. Now this one is different from the one that says write a program that adds 5 and 10. So I do not need to use the input for the one question which I already have the values for. But for this one, I need to put a room where the user can put the number that he or she wants. So that's the difference between the input and hard coding values. Then on the character casing, for the variable, the variable name, character casing is up to you as a developer. Or as long as you're following the principles or the rules of naming variables, the ones that we mentioned in that day, there should be no spaces, there should be no special characters, it should not start with a number, and you can use those casing that I gave you, camel case, Pascal case, and snake case to name your variables. So as long as your variable name follows those rules, it's fine. Doesn't matter the casing that you use. Uppercase, lowercase, mixed, doesn't matter. So that's on variables. Then on the right hand side here, these are predefined functions. Int needs to be small case. If I put an int like this, it won't run. Like if I try to run my code, you can see. So on the casing, if it is a predefined function or a predefined or a reserved word, and I want to use that reserved word, I need to type it as it is. So the int is small case, always, if it is Python. The input is small case, always. The message is up to you as a developer. whatever I want to display, I can display small cases. It will work fine like this. It will just put so, but usually a display message should be a human readable message, something that I can understand by just looking at it. Like I can say what am I being asked to hear. I do not put jargon within my phrase, so you need to write it on a term that the user can easily understand. And there is no rules that I can say I do not need to put spaces here. This is just a message. Like if I put it here, it will work fine. But users won't be able to tell what am I being asked here. So it's just one word which says enter number one. Someone may say, "Ah, what is being asked here?" So you just need to write it in a human readable format, like what users can really understand. So the casing inside the message, it doesn't matter the casing you use. There are no any rules that governs you from writing your message. Even special characters are allowed here. Question mark, explanation mark, comma, what, as long it is inside the brackets, it will work fine, as you can see. I can put my value and it will still work fine. So the message you are displaying to the user, any message within these two quotes, you can use any alphanumeric, alphabetical letters, numerical values, lowercase, uppercase, it's up to you. So I think you are answered there. Okay, moving on to, so we were in the process of creating this. This is a calculator and in a calculator in my laptop. So as you can see, it have special things. These are exponential to the power. Is to the power. This is to the power, right? Okay, I can say to the power 3. Where do I clear here? Okay, I'm not seeing the clear function. Okay, okay, to the power 2 is 4. What about if I want to put a custom value 5? Okay, send it back to the power 0. Okay, 5 to the power 2. What is the 0 going on? 5 to the power 2. Okay, so this is the power. So like I was saying, okay, in mathematics they use this symbol, but in programming we use double asterisk. So we want to create this. Of course, we won't be creating the log with the square root and the what. We are going to do only the plus minus, these ones, the basic ones. So we want to create a simple calculator, right? But as I'm the person who designed this calculator, didn't know that when I open it this time, I want to do addition. When I open it next time, I want to subtract. Maybe I'm doing some financial analysis on my money in my pocket. I need to know how much money I've used, how much I've spent, how much is left. So maybe this time I need to do subtraction. The time I open it tomorrow, I may need to do addition or sort of. So we want to create that calculator with the room to allow a user to enter the numbers that you want, that he or she want, and the arithmetic operator that he or she wants. And we perform the calculation based on the operator that the user has entered. Like I said, the operators are these ones, the plus minus. These are operators. These are operators. Then the value that you are performing the arithmetic operation with are called the operands. So we need three things here. We need operator, we need operand, we need operator, we need operand. So the representation of this maybe is 1 as my operand, plus as my operator, maybe 2 as my operand. So we need three variables, num1, symbol, num2. We are only performing just an arithmetic operation of two values. We are not going to end the value like 2 plus 2 plus 2. We are going only for 2 plus 2, 2 minus 2, 5 plus 10, and so forth. So since we need three variables, I already have num1. I now put symbol and I put num2. So if you are opening an if, let me just read the if, what if does. I said that you should be able to tell. So these are good control structures. We'll dive them deeper if time allows, maybe today, but if time not allows, in our next lesson. But control structures, we use them in programming language to do comparisons, to do logical operations, to do looping structures, and so forth. So the first control structure, so we have what are called control structures and we have what are called conditional statements. So control structures, we use them for looping. Conditional statements, we use them to check for condition. So for condition check, maybe I want to travel a long journey. I need to check my fuel. Is my fuel okay? Yes, maybe it's enough tank. It can allow me to travel to where I want to go. Is my oil okay? It's low, so my oil is not okay, which is false. So I need to go and buy oil. Is my water okay? Because if you travel with a car without water, it will overheat at some point if I'm traveling at high speeds or something. So I say, no, my water is not okay. So it's false. I need to top water. So those are condition statements. We are checking for a condition. So like I said earlier, condition statements, they only result in one value, which is a Boolean, which is a true or a false. So if I say if whatever phrase that I need to put inside my condition will always result in one value. So the condition statement will execute what's inside that condition statement only if the condition is true. So let's do that by a practical example. Maybe before we move on to a calculator, maybe it's quite, it may be confusing what I'm saying. If we run to this, let me just do one practical condition statement. So if I say if, let me say num1, 10 and like this. So my num1 is equal to 10, 20. I've hard coded my num1. If num1, so if is a reserved keyword, as you can see, and its syntax is to write it in small cases. This is the syntax for if. If num1 is less than 30, then what if I want to execute inside this? So this is a condition, this one. So what if I want to execute inside? I put a, where's my, this one. So as you can see, when I click enter here, my cursor is not going at the starting of the file here. It's going at this tab here. So Python is what is called indenting. That's its syntax. Indenting is very special in Python. You can get indentation, an error which is called indentation error. I'm not sure how it is read, the word. It's indentation error. But it tells you that you have wrong indenting in your file. So by indenting, what if I want to execute under this file? You put 4 spaces or 1 tab. So maybe my IDE is not clever enough to put the cursor where I want it to go. So I need to put 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this. These are spacing, like if you're clicking the space bar. But someone can just use the tab. This. Okay, let me just go at the starting of the file. I can click the tab, this one. So the tab at the keyboard, I'm sure those who know what a tab is, let me just show you this one. This is the tab. So if I put my cursor right here, so my cursor is at the starting of the file, right? So if I click tab, this one, so you can see my cursor has gone here. So whatever I'm writing here, all the codes that I'm writing here will only execute if this condition is true. So like I said, the condition of an if always result to a Boolean value, which is a true or false. Then the second thing is that the instructions inside an if statement are only executed only and only if the condition is true. So the syntax of an if is if condition, then statement 1, statement 2, up to statement n, like this. So these statements are going to be executed only if this is true. So on my previous example, let me just go back here. So this is going to be executed only if this is true. So from my example, is it true? Is num1 less than 30? Num1 is num1 less than 30. And what's the value for num1? Is this one, because that's what you have assigned it. So here is the computation for this will be, is 20 less than 30? That's what you're asking here. Can you kindly answer that for me? Is 20 less than 30? Is it true or false? It's true, right? So which means these statements are going to be executed because this condition is true. So if I run this, I will encounter an exception because these commands, they don't mean anything in Python. So I will encounter an exception, which is on line number 6, which is this, because it has got into trying to execute my condition statements inside my if statement because this is true. But if this is 40, what will happen here is that it is going to assign 40 to num1, and it is going to check, is 40 less than 30? Is 40 less than 30? True or false?
False.
It's false, right? So this will not get executed. So if I run this, I won't encounter any error because the program even didn't get to this section of executing this command, because what it does, it checks the condition first. If the condition is true, only if it is true, that's when it executes what is inside the if statement. When it is false, it will jump to the else if. So an else if is like, if this condition is false, can you also check another condition? If that condition is false, can you also check another condition? So it's like, I'm asking a person, are you 10 years old? Then he says no. Oh, you're not 10 years old. So are you like at 12 years old? Then you say no. Then you say, are you maybe you are 15? Then he says no. Then are you are 20? Now you are 20. Then he says no. Then I can conclude that you are older than 20, because I started maybe from, are you less than 5? Then you say no, which means you're greater than 5. So if you're greater than 5, I can assume between 5 and 10. If you don't fall under that, between 10 and 15. If you don't fall under that, between 15 and 20. If you don't fall under that, I can say maybe automatically you are over 20. Since age doesn't have a negative value, I can say you are minus 10 years old. So automatically it means you are over 20. So the conditions, you can have them as many as you want. So that's the use of an if statement. So we want to do our calculator. What that we were doing, where is it? This one. So, but we want to make use of an if statement. So we are doing both arithmetic operation and condition statement. So I just wanted you to know what condition statements are and how they work. Okay. So the first thing, we want to add two numbers, or we want to subtract two numbers, or we want to multiply two numbers. We do not know what the user wants to do, right? So if you're opening Tony on your side, can you just kindly write this? Num1 is equal to int input and a num1 symbol. Symbol can be a character. So input and a symbol. Num2, you want it to be an integer, but you want to perform an arithmetic operation on it. So int input and a num2, right? By writing this, this program should work fine. By entering num1, entering symbol, it's a minus, entering 1, but it won't do anything. But we want to create a scenario where we check the symbol that the user has entered, and we perform the mathematical operation depending on what the user has entered. So we want to do a condition check. Is the symbol plus If it is a plus, we do the addition. Is the symbol minus? If it is true, like I said, then if checks the condition, right? So is the symbol minus? If it is minus, we do the subtraction. So now we want to write our if statement here. If, right, you put a space. What do you want to check here? We want to check symbol. Is symbol. So, by the way, there's what is called a comparison. So we use an equal sign for assignment. I think I mentioned that yesterday. So assignment takes what is on the right hand side. It assigns it to what's on the left hand side. Then I said when we have an equal sign, automatically it says what is on the right hand side is a value. What's on the left hand side is a variable. So for example, if I have num1, I can have two variables. Then I will assign my variable 2 to variable 1. I can have num1 like this, which is 10. Then I can say I want to have a second number, which is num2. But I may have a scenario where I say my second number is the same as the first number. So I can say num2 is equal to num1. So what this does, it creates sorry. Yeah, I'm coming in a second. So I was saying if I say num1 like this, it will put 10 as my num1. Then I go here, it will create a variable called num2, but I'm assigning my value num1 to my variable num2. But num1 is a variable. But when it is being equated like this with an equals, this is no longer a variable. It's a variable, but it's being treated as a value. But this variable already has a value which is 10. So 10 will be put here. Then num2 will be given 10 as its value. So I said this one is called an equator or assignment. This one is an assignment. So for assignment, we use an equal sign, a single equal sign like this. So this is assignment. By assignment, we mean assigning a value to a variable. So a variable means it varies. My value for my variable can be different from your value. So another symbol that you wanted to talk about is called an equalizer or a comparison checker, which is denoted as comparison which is denoted by a double equals. So double equals doesn't do assignment. It only equates to see if the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side, and it results to a Boolean value, which is true or false. So let me just try to do something here. Print, can you check is 2 equal to 1? So this should print false, like this. My symbol, if, let me just comment this. As you can see, it has printed false. So what's happening here is that it's equating this value. Is this value equal to this value? So we can use variables to compare variables. We can use value to compare with values. We can use values to compare with variables interchangeably. Doesn't matter. But what you just need to know that is double equals results to a Boolean value. 1 equals results to an assignment. Double equals do comparisons. So we are comparing this value and this value, and the result is always a Boolean. So here we want to do comparison. But what do you want to compare here? You want to compare the symbol. But where is this symbol? The symbol has been entered by the user. Okay. Am I putting wrong spelling here? This symbol is the character that has been entered by the user. We want to compare it with a plus sign. So we put a plus in here. So this is a condition checker. Okay. So before we do arithmetic, let's just print you are doing addition. There it is. So, okay. So when I run my program, right, it is going to ask me to enter num1. Let me just remove this. It is going to ask me to enter num1, to enter symbol, to enter num2. But I haven't performed any arithmetic operation yet. I put a if statement. Then this is a condition checker, which is checking the symbol that has been entered by the user. We said this is prompting the user to enter a symbol, right? Then this is checking. This will take whatever the user has entered and put it here. So if I put a minus, so my symbol will be replaced by a minus like this. Okay. They need to compare, is this symbol or is this character, this one, is it equal to this one? Automatically, this is a false because a minus and a equal are not even the same. So this will result to a false. So it won't execute this thing. So I'm sure you're following. So here we do not add code, but we put what the user has entered. Use this variable, but we want to compare it to a plus. If it is a plus, then we want to tell the user that you are doing addition. So we are not doing addition. So I put a plus. I put my, as you can see, it has printed that I'm doing addition. If I put 5, if I put minus, so I'm not doing addition this time because I did put minus. So this one will fall into false. Like I said, program execution executes line by line going downwards. So it will execute this one, ask me for a symbol, ask me for a second value. But when it gets here, it will compare the symbol that I've entered previously, which is this one. It will compare it with plus. So this one, since I put minus here, this one will be false. And I said condition statements always result to a Boolean value. And an if statement, the statements inside the if statement are only executed if and only if the condition is true. But what's my condition? My condition is this one. So since I put a minus, it will not print this. So if I click enter here and I click this, as you can see, my code has ended. It hasn't executed this because this one resulted to a false. In short, this one will result to a false like this because after doing comparisons, this will result to a false, and if we only execute if the condition is true. So this is on conditions, and this is the syntax for condition statements. So the practical example that I was saying when I introduce if statements, like I can ask the user's age by saying, are you 10 years old? If you say no, maybe you're 15. So that's another conditions. So I can have as many conditions as I want. So I can have condition 1. If it falls into false, that's when it checks for another condition. If this one falls into false, I can have another else if condition by putting another elif between the elif and an else. So I can say if like this, then I come here, I can say elif, then I put another condition here, then statement 1 up to statement n, statement 1 up to statement n. I can have another condition. So I can say this is condition 1 and this is now condition 2. I can have this is condition 3. I can have this is condition n. This is now condition n, like this. So this, I'm just trying to give you a syntax here. Then I can have an else. An else means that if all these conditions are false, I'm now concluding that this is true. I'm not sure if you are following, but from the example I was giving, I can say, are you 1 year old? Then if you say false, false like this. Are you 2 years old? If you say false again, are you... Okay, let me just give this a range so that they can end quickly. Maybe this is a bar, right? Or it's a website that you are visiting, and maybe it is only for adults. So maybe the programmer who designed that website can do an age checker which says enter your age. Then I can use that age to compute if you are 18 years and old. Or I can say if you are between 10 and 15, maybe you are allowed to visit the website, but maybe there may be some restrictions inside that website that you are no longer being allowed to go this to this section because you are not 18 years old. But maybe if you are between 10 and 18, you are allowed to enter the website. But if you are below 10, you say strictly no, you are not even allowed to enter that website, or maybe it's a club or something, or maybe it's a club with a VIP section, I don't know. So I can do a condition checker. Are you between 0 and 10? Are you between 0 to 10? So if I say false, okay, so it means, are you between 11? Are you between 11 and 11 and 15? If you say false, so are you between 15 and 18? Are you between 15 and 18? If you say false, which means automatically you are greater than 18. It's good. So that's what it basically means. So if I ask you, are you between this age? If you are, maybe I'm 21 years old, I will say no. So are you between 11 and 15? I'll say no. Are you between 15 and 18? I'll say no because I'm 21. So it means I automatically will fall between this age. But if I'm 17 years old, I will fall within this. So this one will result to true. So this is a condition checker that you are talking about. Okay. So we want to end. So these ones. This is condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, condition else, which is this one, which means you don't fall within these first categories. They can be as many as I want. I can be checking maybe with a 5 age difference from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and the condition values. There's no limit to the number of conditions that I check. But I can also put a condition else, which means if you don't fall within these conditions, you will go here. But under normal circumstances, no one will never find his or her category between these. Okay, so this is the syntax for condition statement, for an else if condition statement. So we want to continue with our calculator. I'm sure you've wrote This, just for you to go along with me, this is what we are using. So we were here. So we said now we are checking if the symbol that is being entered by the user is a plus. So if it is a plus, we do not want to print that you are doing addition. We want to do addition here. So if your cursor is at the starting of the file, you need to put a tab or 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, for it to be executed. If you write your code starting here, maybe I want to write my code here, you encounter an exception because this is an if statement, right? An if should contain a body, what is called a body. So this is the body. Where's my example here? So this is the body. And any code that is inside the if statement is called a body, this one. Then on the actual program that we are doing, this is a body, this one. This is the body, right? The print statement of the body. So an if statement should always have a body. So if I do this, my if statement will not have a body, because what we consider to be a body is any code that is tabbed or that is indented 4 spaces from the starting of the if statement. So my if statement is starting here, right? So I should expect a body from 4 spaces after my I here, below this if statement. That's what is considered a body. So if I run it like this if statement doesn't have a body. So you can see that I'm facing indentation error. So this is the word that was troubling me to read out. Indentation error. So it means you need to indent at least, you can see that you should have at least a block after an if statement. It means the print statement is telling me that this is where my if statement is ending. I now want to print something outside the if statement. But the program will say, but the if statement doesn't have a body. So what is the body for an if statement? So that's when I encounter an indentation error. So for me to indent, I need to put 1, 2, 3, 4, or a space. If you're using space bar, put 4 spaces. If you are using tab, we can put 1 tab. So now we want to add. So we can have a variable called total is equals to num1 plus num2. We can print total like this. So if I run this, if I put 10 and 2, symbol, it's a plus, and 2, you can see my total here. But with this program alone, what happens if I put a minus? Is there anyone with an idea what happens if I put a minus? Like if I run here, then I put 10 here, then I put a minus, then I put my second value before I click enter so that you can see the result. What happens if I put a minus? Question to see if you are following with me. What happens if I put a minus?
What's an answer?
What happened? What will happen? Any idea what will happen if I put a minus as my symbol?
Exactly.
You do have this program on your side, right? I said, can you also write the program? Or at least I'm writing it. So if you are not seeing, can you also write this program? So so that you don't get indentation error, whatever is inside should be 4 spaces. The 4 spaces I'm talking about is this blue that I've highlighted. So you put your cursor at the starting of the file, you click a tab, or you click 4 spaces. So if you are not sure if your if your segments are 4 spaces, you just need to put them back, you click tab, or you put them back, you put 1, 2, 3, 4. I was asking what will happen if I put a minus. I want to know what will happen. I haven't yet the answer. To see if you are following with me, what will happen. We said if statements they use what are called condition checkers, and the condition checkers always results to a boolean, which is a true or false. And if a condition is a false, whatever is inside that condition statement with or that if statement, as for our example, will not get executed. So I'm asking what will happen if I put a minus? Any thoughts? Nobody. Okay, fine. So let's just do dry running. By dry running, it means let's debug our code on our own without using a compiler. So the first line here, this one is a comment. We said comments don't get executed. So this one will skip. This one will do assignment of the value that the user has entered. In my case, I've entered 10 here. So when I clicked enter here, 10 was assigned to num1. Okay. Then here, it has asked me for a symbol. I put minus. Minus was assigned to symbol. I got here. I entered what? 2. 2 was assigned to num2. It went to line number 5. Line number 5 is doing nothing. It went to line number 6. So we haven't run it yet. So it is going to go to line number 6. And what is going to happen on line number 6? It is going to compare what and what here. I mentioned that, so if you don't get an answer there, I'm not sure if you are together in this lesson. What is going to happen on line number 6? I have my symbol, which I've entered, and I've clicked enter, so my variable symbol now has a value in the memory location, which is a minus. So what will happen here? Hello?
Yes.
What will happen on line number 6? It's just a simple question. What will happen on line number 6?
Someone is yet to answer you.
On line
Okay.
number 6, because the function there is the condition is addition. So if we put a minus, it will not work because the condition there is addition.
So this is a condition checker, right? So it is going to take the symbol that I've put earlier, which is a minus. I haven't clicked enter on 2, so my program is waiting for me to click enter here. So like I said, this tells me that this is my program where it started running. When my program finishes, I'll see this, what are these, closing curly brackets, not curly brackets, I'm not sure, angular bracket, I'm not sure what kind of brackets are this, but I'm going to have this at the bottom here. So I do not have this. So why? Because my program is waiting for me to click enter, because I'm on this section where I've entered 2, but I haven't clicked enter. So now num2 doesn't have a value. When I click enter, that's when my 2 is going to be assigned to num2. So when I click enter here, it is going to go to line number 5. Line number 5 is nothing. It is going to go on line number 6. Line number 6 is going to take symbol, but what's there on symbol? It's a minus. It is going to compare minus and a plus. Is minus equal to a plus? So here it is going to replace this with a minus, because it is going to fetch for my value what I've entered, which is a minus. So it will assign it like this. Then this is a condition checker. We said this one is a comparison. A double clause is a comparison. We are comparing what is on the left-hand side and what is on the right-hand side. Then we said the result of a condition is always a Boolean value, which is a true or false. Okay. Then we said the statements that are inside an if statement are only and only going to be executed if and only if the condition is true. Okay. So it is going to compare this symbol that I've put here with the symbol that I already have. This one is not going to change because I've hard coded it, but this one is replaced by a symbol taking the value that the user has entered in this. So it is going to replace this with a minus because I've put a minus. It is going to equate, it is going to compare my minus with the symbol that I already have, which is a plus. Then this will result to a false. Is a minus equal to a plus? It will result to a false. So it will never do addition here. So if I click enter here, you can see there was no total calculation, there was no printing of total. My code just ended because this one resulted to a false. Since it resulted to a false, this never got executed. Are we together now?
Yes, we are together.
Okay. So we said an if statement can have as many conditions, right? So we want to put another condition. So our code didn't execute for a minus because there was no condition to check for a minus. You can see I did put minus, then there was no subtraction value here. So we want now to put a condition for a minus. So what you do here, we put another condition, which is condition number 2, like this. Condition number 2, like this. So we want now to check. So you put your cursor back. It should be in line with the I. Whatever is inside the if statement should be 4 spaces inside the if statement, like this. Then our next else if statement, an else if statement means I've checked the previous condition and it's false. I now want to check for another condition. So for an else if, we say elif like this, right? Then elif, the same as if, it always accepts an argument, which is a condition. So our condition now, we want to check if the symbol is equal to a minus. Minus like this. If it is equal to a minus, whatever that is going to be executed inside here, we'll put a full colon, we'll click enter. Automatically, it should go inside the if statement, which means already appending 4 spaces for you so that you can type your statements inside this. If it doesn't do that, you need to click tab or you need to click 4 spaces. So my IT is clever enough to do that for me. So when I click enter, it will start, my cursor will start flicking at the space at the position where I should write my statement. So I want now to click, this is now summation, this is now subtraction. So maybe I say difference as my variable name is equals to num1 minus num2. Okay. Then I print the difference. Different like this. Okay. This. So now which means if I put a minus, this is going to be executed. If I put a plus, this is going to be executed. But there's no way my code will execute both this and this. Okay? No, under any circumstances, my program will execute both this condition and this condition. That is a scenario when I say, are you a boy? Then you say no and true. Yeah, or you say yes and no. There's no way you can have both genders. It's either you're a boy or you're a girl. So if I say, are you a girl? Maybe I do not know you. We just started chatting over WhatsApp or over Facebook. Then I say, oh, so are you a girl? You can say yes and no. So either it's yes or no. So that's the same technique that condition statements use. It's either this or this or this or that, but never this and this. So, if I run here, if I put 20, I want to do addition. So if I put plus 10, so my result here should be 20 plus 10. Because this one, when my condition, so what happens here is it will check the first condition first. If it is true, it will execute whatever is inside that if statement. When it finishes executing this, it will exit the if statement. By exit means it will go to this line, which is line number 12, but there's nothing there, so my program will end. So everything else will be ignored because this is one thing in if statement. No matter how many conditions I'm checking, if my code happens to be true at a certain condition, the rest of the conditions will be ignored. So if I put a plus, this will fall to true because this will replace symbol with a plus. Then you check, is plus equal to plus? Yes. Then it will create a variable called total and add 1 and 2 and bring total. Then it will exit the if statement. By exit the if statement means it will go to line number 12. and line number 12 is the end of my file, because the rest of the bottom are comments, and comments, they don't get executed, like I said earlier. So if I put a plus, it should print num1 plus num2, which is that, like this. Then as you can see, my program has ended. Why? Because this condition never got even to be checked. The moment this one got to be true, this one got ignored. So even if I put another one, you want to put maybe the user has entered a times times like this. You want to perform multiplication. Okay. Num1 times num2. Print answer. And this. Like this. So if I put a times, like 2 times 3, so you can see that it has done multiplication. So when it was executing, if I'm try running this, I've entered num1, I've entered my symbol, I've entered my num2. It went to line number 5, there's nothing. It went to line number 6. It checked if my symbol is equal to plus. So since I've put an asterisk, which is a times, it skipped this one. It skipped this because this is false, right? Because I've put a times here, and times is not equal to a plus. So this one is going to be skipped. Then you need to go to another condition, which is the next condition. Is times equal to minus? No. Automatically, this is a no. So this one got skipped. Then it went to the next condition. Is times equal to times? Yeah, this is true. So when this one tends to be true, it then executes this. After executing this, then you to and exit the if statement. So maybe we can print end like this. Okay. So let me just run again and put a minus 10 minus 5. Okay. So you can see it is as me num1, num2 as usual, num1 symbol, num2. Then it went to condition checking. Is minus equal to a plus? No. So it skips this. It went to this condition. Is minus equal to minus? Then tends this to be true. So it did calculate the difference, which is 10 minus 5. Then it print the difference, which is 5, which is this one. Okay. Then the moment this tends to be true, it is going only to execute what's inside that if statement. And when done, which means this is our last statement in our if statement. We can see that by the 4 spaces. This is the last statement with 4 spaces inside our if statement. So after this, it is going to exit the if statement. It means the rest is going to be ignored. This one, it is going to be ignored. Then it went to line number 15, which is when it printed what? End. So that's introduction to control structures, and also the program to perform a calculator. So you do the rest for division. You just put another condition for division. I think that was the last one. So the else statement, this one, we use it if all these conditions are false. So if I put maybe I put an invalid character. So an else, like I said, in my previous example, I deleted the age example that I did. So I said, if you are not 10 years old, if you are not 15, if you are not 20, automatically it means you are greater than 20, because age doesn't have a negative value. So that's where the else statement falls in. So I can put an else here, but also put the condition for division on your side. But me, I want to put an else here. And else doesn't have a condition. And else means the rest is true. So I want to print invalid operator, like this. Okay. So if I run this, so we haven't put a division yet. But if I put a division, my division will fall into this because it will check for the first condition. Is it a division? Division equal to a plus? No. Division equal to a minus? No. Division equal to an asterisk? No. Then automatically it will fall under this. So if I put a division here, we don't have a division yet. So as you can see, my condition has fallen into this. So this one means it doesn't fall in any of the categories that I've put above here. It doesn't fall into any of the conditions that I've put above here. So we use the else statement. So, but for you, can you kindly also put the division between here? So I want also, if I put a division, it should divide. If I put 10 and 2, it should divide 10 divided by 2, so I should get 5. But maybe for the else statement, it means I've put an invalid character. Maybe I said 10. So it wants an arithmetic symbol, but I put a comma. Then I put a 2. Can this be computed 10, 2? This is supposed to be an arithmetic operation. So that's when you want to say invalid operator. But for a division, can you kindly put a division condition here? That should not take long. Then I think that's it with this example of a simple calculator. Then let's go to string manipulation. So we'll dig more into condition statements, these ones, on this lesson, but I've did an introduction. So, but you do that, I think it will be more of a recap because we did how we define a condition and what this results in. It results in a Boolean value. Then this one means my condition doesn't fall in any of the available given conditions. Then we did comparison. This one, it compares two values or two variables, or do the rest of the logical operators. So these are called logical operators. These ones, we use them. These are comparison operators. We are comparing two values if they are equal. We are comparing two values if they are not equal. We are comparing two values if the first one is greater than the second one. The first one is less than the second one, greater than. We'll do that in our next lesson. Then we'll do the logical operators. But the introduction to if statements, that is it. So let's just do the finishing, the last example. Then I will also want you to do the assignments that are below here. Okay. So the string manipulation, I think we did that. Let's just do a recap. So the string manipulation, and also the print function, we did two types you can call the print function with, which is one value. The second one is one value, but with the variables inside. Then the second one is this one, where you can have two arguments within the print function. Like I can say, this one, we're done with it. So I can say name is equals to John. Then I can say print like this, name is equal to, then I can say name here. Then if I run here, you can see. So this is how I can write my print function with two arguments. It doesn't matter what you put on the left hand side and the right hand side, but whatever that is a variable, you don't put quotes on it. So my variable is name here, so that's why I didn't put quotes on name. So I need to write it as it is. Then you space your arguments with a comma. So these are called arguments. What is put inside the bracket is called an argument. From the way we were doing input, right? We're putting a message inside here. The message can be custom, depends on what you want the user to input. Maybe you want to say enter number one. This is an argument. So I can say my input function is one argument because this is one argument. But this print function has two arguments because it has this, comma, and it has this. So these are called arguments. So I can have my print function with two arguments like this. So I can say print name is equal to comma name. Somebody can say print. Then since I may want to use one argument, which is of a string. But since I am accessing a variable, that's when I used to use the elf function. Then I can say name is equal to, then I put this. We said these are curly brackets. They are used to represent variables if I have an f function. Then I can close my quotes, close my bracket. Then what I put inside here is a variable. So this one should print the same, as you can see. So it doesn't matter which way you want, as long as you know what you want to do. But it's only that using an f function will allow you to put more than one variable within your print statement. So this one will not allow me to put, maybe I have, this is first name. Okay. This is last name. Like this. Then also take note of naming rows of variables. For those who still remember, what kind of casing is this? If I may ask, what kind of casing is this? I said we have three cases that we can use when naming variables. Which casing have I used there? Or maybe let me just use another one here. Then can you tell me which casing have I used here and which casing have I used here?
Anyone with the answer?
You must have an answer. We did this. I did put an example. Everybody must have an answer. It's only that maybe you may not remember, but everybody must have an answer. Anyone who still remember which casing have I used here?
The first one, the first name is Camel.
The second one?
Snake.
Okay. At least you still remember. So like I said, that it doesn't matter how you put your variables, as long as it's human readable. You define the variables however you want, as long as you're following your variable naming rules. You don't start with a number, you don't put spaces, you don't put special characters, and so forth. So this is the only character that is allowed in variables. Alphanumeric, yes, which means alphabetical letters and numbers, yes. But characters, this is the only one that is allowed, which is an underscore. We don't put like division like this, no. So I can say name here, first name here. Okay, so I was saying this if function, usually that's what most people use because it allows you to put more than one variable within one argument. Okay, so this one can say name, first name, then I can say last name like this. But if I use the arguments way, it only allows me to put two arguments. It won't allow me to put like last name like this. Because the print function only allows two arguments, one argument or two arguments. Okay? So this is where the class print is. So it has values, separators, which is a comma. Our end, it means our second argument can be a comma. Then our return type is none. The print doesn't return anything. We'll get to the return function, but as for now, we are not doing that. Okay, so this one will not work. If I want to use more than one variable, I'll opt for this one. So if I run this, I'll get name and what because of the F word. So I can have as many variables I can have. Maybe I have age here. Like I can have as many variables as I want. It is okay. Okay, you can see that this is a variable, this is a variable, this is a variable. Then let's move on to. So I was saying this is, but if I only want to make use of one variable, I can use this comma, or I can use the f function. The f function doesn't have a limit of how many variables you can put. But if I have one variable I want to use, I can use this two arguments method, which is where I have my message and I have my value. So I can have my variable and my variable, it doesn't matter. But what it does, it prints this, then it prints this. Then we have this up. I think we talked about this. It converts your string into uppercase. This one, it converts your string into lowercase. And this one are quite explanatory, so we won't be doing that. But let me just do it maybe for the sake of repetition. I can have print first name typing squared dot upper this. Then this is an input function up. It's an input function, and its syntax is it should have opening and closing bracket after the word upper. You write it is like this. Then but I need to close my print statement like this. So if I run, as you can see, it is printed John in uppercase, but John was in lowercase. Same goes for lower. And this John is now in lowercase. Then the next one is what? Reversing string. So here we are reversing string. So the syntax of reversing string is for reversing string, you say reverse, you say array name like this, which is your variable name. Then you put your square brackets. Then here you put your double quotes, your full colon, two full colons. So, but what it means is the first argument will be a lower bound. The second argument will be an upper bound. The third argument is called a step. So that's the syntax here. It's array name, lower bound, or lower index. When you say lower bound or lower index, it's one and the same thing. You can use that interchangeably. Somebody can say start, end, step. So I can say lower bound. Lower bound means where I'm starting at. Full colon, upper bound, where in upper bound, which means where I'm ending at. Then this one is step. Step, which means how many characters am I printing or am I accessing from my lower bound and my upper bound. So for example, let's do a practical example. Let me just comment this. Okay, let me comment this. So let's just print my first name. Let me remove this. My first name from the first character to the last character. How many characters does my name have? 0, 1, 2, 3. 3. Then I want to reverse my string. So if I want to reverse my string, I only need to say -1. So it means go to the starting index. So it will use the upper bound as my lower bound. It will use my lower bound as my upper bound and print one character at a time. So if I do this, it will reverse my string. Okay, 0 to 3, 0, 1, 2. Okay, 0 to 2. Okay, what's happening here? First name, the first index, the second index. Let me remove this. Let's see. Okay, why is my index not working? Okay, let me check on that. But the -1 means I'm starting at the end. So if you don't put indexes like this, it will automatically calculate for itself the length of the array that you have put. So first name, this one is a value John. So to calculate John, how long is John? John is 0, 1, 2, 3. It has 4 characters. So it will start from 0 to 4, but it will start from 4 to 0. So that's why it is printed starting by N, which is the last character, going to H, which is the second last character, O, which is the third last character, then J, which is the fourth last character, which seems also to be the first character. So it's starting from the last character as the first character. But why is, if I put indexes, it's not working? Okay, let me just check on my another example. Okay, let me just try this out. Like this. Then I don't put index, I put 2 here. Okay, so it's working. So why is it not working? Okay, so this is one example that we can use. So what I'm doing here, I'm printing from my lower bound. So if I don't put my lower bound, it will always use 0. To my upper bound, it will calculate the length of my array, but I'm using a step of 2. Like if you remember, I said upper bound, lower bound, upper bound, and step. So I'm using a step of 2. So if I don't specify a step here, it will use 1. If I don't specify a step here, it will use 1. So nothing will change. It is going to print from 0 to the length of my array without a step. So without a step means it is going to print this, print this, print this, print this. But if I put 1, it won't change anything, because I'm saying from the first character, can you print the next character? Means I'm not jumping. Like the word step means jump, 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 jump. But if I say 2 here, it means from the letter J, can you jump twice? So it will say J, or then it will print H. So if I run this, so it will print H. After H, can you jump 2 times? Hit H, N, then it will print P. From P, can you jump 2 times? P, H, then it will print I. From I, can you jump 2 times? It will jump I and R and print the last I. So that's how it printed here. So this is called a step. So if I say 4, I should print about 2 characters or something. 3. So it has printed J, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it has printed P, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it has printed I. So this is how the syntax of string reversal will work. But if it is a reversal, you just need to know that I'm starting from 0 to 1, but I'm using a step of a minus. A step of a minus means print 1 character at a time, but starting from the end. So here it will print every character, but starting from the end, like this. So it is printed I, R, I, P, H, J, up to J, like this. But I can say, also do a step of 2 times, but this time I'm starting from the end. So I've reversed my string, but I'm doing a 2 times jump. So I'm starting from I, then I jump 2 times, I'll jump here, then I'll jump 2 times, I'll jump here. That's why it is printed this one. So the negative means I'm starting from the far end. Then the value is the step. So this is string reversal. Then the next one is what? What's here? Old string, new string. This is replacement, right? Okay, this is replacement. The replacement, I think we talked about its syntax. Yeah. The syntax of replacement is you put your array name, you say dot replace, then replace, I said it accepts 2 arguments. If you remember that day when I replaced my name with Oz, I said name dot replace like this. Then I say replace all A's with O like this. Detail. Okay, so this is what I want to replace. Then this is what I want to replace it with. So this is the syntax. You say your array name or your variable name, replace in small caps. That's its syntax. In Python, it should be This should be this way as it is. Then you say odd string, comma, new string. So you put what you want to replace and what you want to replace it with. So if this doesn't exist, if this odd string, or if my name doesn't have an A, it won't execute the replacement function. The moment it checks for this character throughout the array and it doesn't find anything with this character, my name will be retained as it is. Just take note of that. So by name, let me just comment this. Okay, so if I copy this, if I say name, I want to print this. Okay, let me print this. Okay, I want to print this name, but replacing all A's with an O. So if I run this, so this is the name. Let me just comment this print function above here. This is the one that is printing this. Okay, so if I run this, I'm only left with one print statement, which is this one. But this one is replacing all A's with an O. But do we have any A's in our array first name? We do not have any A here, so it will just retain my name as it is. But the moment it finds, maybe I'm replacing what? Let me replace an I like this. I. But the moment it finds any letter within this array that I'm trying to replace, or a phrase, it will replace that with the replacement that I've put here. So now if I run this, you can see this one have been replaced. This I's have been replaced with an O. Also, I can replace a phrase. Maybe I can replace the fairy part. So but it needs to be exactly as it is. So I've put fairy in small case, but my fairy is in uppercase. But so if I run here, my name will be printed as it is, but it didn't find any phrase which match exactly this phrase, or any character which match exactly as this character. But this one is a phrase, it's not a character, because what a character is one alphabetic letter. So, but if I put my fairy in, so it will find this. Where will it find it? Will find it here. So it will replace this with an O. So if I run on, you can see my journey still remains the same, but my fairy has been replaced with an O. So that is string replacement. So you can replace a word in a phrase, or you can replace characters, or you can replace characters and phrases mostly, or both. So that is replacement. So we did replace our replacement. I think so. That's the end of our session today. So let me just go through the assignments, see if there is any one that is so difficult. This one is simple, just casing. Data type identification. For data type identification, I think I told you that you use the type function. The type function. So if I want to see the value for my data type, this is string, right? So but I may not be aware of the data type of my variable. So I can use print bracket type. This is an input function. You need to type it as it is. Then you put your variable name inside here. I close this. So if I run, it will tell me that my first name is of type what? String, which is a class. I think I mentioned that is on the first day that string is a class. Then let me just go through the assignments to see simple calculator. We did something like manipulation. Okay. But on this one, now it's asking you to replace a substring that has been entered by a user. There on my example, I was replacing here. I was replacing this phrase from this variable, but this variable I had coded it. So on that question is now asking the user to enter a certain phrase. Then you are the one going to tell the program to replace a certain phrase in that phrase that has been entered by a user. Okay. So nothing special about that. And okay, temperature. Python to convert temperature. This one means these are all variables. We're just asking the user to enter this and this. Then we convert. Age calculator. On each calculator, you just need to enter the birth year. But take note that this one, it needs to be an integer. Since you said you can only perform arithmetic operations on integer values or float values, on only numeric values. So this one, it needs to be converted to maybe an integer, then you can add. Okay. But this one is asking you to enter the birth year. Then it should be able to tell you how old are you. Maybe if I say my age is 1995, it should be able to tell me that I am what, 1995. We're in 2024, right? Minus 1995. It should be able to tell me that I'm 29 years old. So, okay. List of operations. Calculate the sum. Okay, this one is quite tricky. We haven't got to arrays yet. So this one might be challenging if yeah, but it's doable. You can research on it, but you do list. We haven't gotten to list that yet. But it's using a control structure. These are now control structures because it will use an if statement, a for statement, or you can do hard coding though. For this one, whoever is going to do this one can use hard coding. Yeah, but this one is quite tricky. Okay, the slicing is slicing is quite simple. Boolean, and the Boolean is simple. But this one, it makes use of logic operators, which are these ones. We haven't got to them. It makes use of comparison operators, these ones. But it's doable still. You just need to know which symbol to use. Is it greater than, less than? The symbols are there in the notes. These ones, they are there in the notes. I think there's an example there. This one's greater than or equal to. Yeah. So I think that's it for today's lesson. So questions, so that we can conclude our lesson. Okay, this is for the next lesson. Okay, this is done. Questions, please.
First question from who?
I'm listening. You can't tell me that there are no questions.
It's like we understood everything.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fantastic. I will be the judge of that. When I'll be marking your assignments, you can write your assignments. So there is a way that you can do. You create your file, right, in Tony. You're seeing my screen, right? You create your file in Tony like this. Open your Tony. Okay, let me just. You answer your assignment, but maybe at the top so that I can know who it is. You can put your name here. You put a hash so that it will be a comment. You put a hash. You put your name. Maybe it's John, right? Your first name and last name. Then you add below at line number 2. You answer your question. Maybe I've chosen assignment 1. Where's the assignment? I've closed the assignment. You answer your question. Maybe I'm answering this one. Okay, this one maybe. So you put your code here, starting from name number 2. If it is asking for the user, num2 is equals to input blah 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 blah. Right. Then once you are done, you can save it. File, save as. So for saving, you can say file, save. It will ask you where you want to save your file. You can save it at your desktop. You give it a name, right? But maybe the preferred one is whatever your name is, you append it. Your file name, append it to the name so that I can identify it. Or Yeah, but for it to be easier on my side to mark your assignment, because I just need to run your file. I don't need to go line by line expecting. I just need to run your file, see the expected value. Is it the one that I was expecting? Then I'll go through your code and I'll advise you on any suggestions and any corrections that you may need to put. So you save your file. If it doesn't ask you where you want to save your file, maybe the file is already saved. But if you don't know where it is saved, you say save as. File save as. It will ask you again where you want to save your file. Then you put maybe on your desktop, you put your file name, you save it, then you share with me over WhatsApp. For those maybe want prefer emails, I can give you my email. Or those who prefer WhatsApp, you can just share with me. Or maybe you can just share it in the group. Maybe for the benefit of others, you can share it in the group. I'll be marking from that group, then I'll be commenting it in the group or in the DM, depending what you prefer. But can you kindly do that? I'll be expecting answers maybe starting from tomorrow morning. I'm not sure when you do the test, but on our Monday lesson, we'll be doing condition statements, but I should be done marking the first assignments. So as for now, I'm preparing the assignments for the control structures, which we'll be doing on Monday. So if you don't have any questions, I'm expecting to see the solutions like yesterday, because it's quite simple there, except for two questions, I think. The one with arrays, we didn't do arrays, like the one with list, but you can also do it by hard coding the values. So I think for today's lesson, we are done. So since there are no questions, we are good to go. Mim Damaris, where are you?
Yes, I've been following.
You will follow. Okay.
Yeah.
Feedback.
So first of all, let me appreciate you for today's session. It's been longer than the other two or three sessions that we have been having previously. And thank you so much for the great facilitation. You know, sometimes programming requires us to be more keen and attention to details. And so I really appreciate you for taking the time to explain each and every detail of it. And I want to believe that the learners are in a good pace with you. And as you've already mentioned, is that you'll be able to go to this via the assignments that you've been able to give them. Yeah, so thank you so much. And we're looking forward to the next sessions that will be happening. That is Monday.